So I want to talk a little bit about the creative process and sort of getting in a flow state when you're working, specifically on a marketing agency basis. So you're maybe creating some ads for your clients, you're creating ads for yourself, you're building a personal brand, something like that. I want to tell you about what my creative process is like, what goes through my mind, and how that all seems to work for me. Hopefully this is similar for you and you can apply it to yourself as well, and then that way it's actually really useful. You might currently be struggling to create good content for yourself, for your clients, good work for your clients. And whatever it is that you're working on, that you need your creative mind to be able to do the work to the extent that you want to be able to do it and achieve the result you want. I'm going to assume, starting off, that you aren't the kind of person that just procrastinates, at least not right now. You're able to push through that and sort of ignore the thoughts in your mind that hold you back from actually doing the work in the first place. The next barrier that I've found when I'm trying to do creative work, trying to figure something out, trying to do something new, is the idea that you need momentum and you need to build up this sort of inertia, and it takes a lot of effort to push through that wall, to build up that momentum and actually do the thing you want to do successfully. So what it is when I'm working on something creative, right? At the start, it's quite difficult, right? It takes a lot of brain power to be creative. And getting up the momentum and sort of getting in the flow to do that is super difficult, or at least it seems that way. It feels like it should be easier. But there are some things you can do, or some mindsets you can adopt to make that easier for yourself and sort of be able to do it consistently and repeatedly. The main number one thing that I've found which will help you to get through the first initial stage of this and the difficulty of doing the task. This is kind of boring, I'm sorry, and it's kind of basic, and a lot of people will tell you this. But it's quite simply just to not have any distractions allowed. So you might have even other little tasks, side tangents you want to go on, but you don't allow yourself to go on those tangents, right? So you set out, I don't know, say it's an hour of like focused work on creating a certain thing. You set that out and you have a specific task during that hour you want to do. So for me today, it was creating adverts, concepts for the adverts, and planning like 5 adverts out for my client. Right, so what I did was, I said to myself, all right, I've got these five adverts to do. There are a bunch of tangents I wanted to go on during this process, even before. Like I could go on my phone, check WhatsApp, message my business partner, I had some questions and things. They didn't need answering urgently. If it's urgent, it's different, right? If you need it to be able to complete the task that is specifically set out for yourself, it's different, right? But if you want to get into this creative zone and stay in the creative zone, you really need to focus only on that, right? So you know what the one thing is, and you need to put all of your attention into that. It's probably way more difficult now than it would have been a few years ago, because you do have your phone. Put it on Do Not Disturb or some shit. The main distraction will be your phone. Like let's be honest, that is the main distraction. And you know, you need it for some things, but for now, just set it aside, do the creative task, focus completely on that. And this will be the number one thing helping you build up that inertia, is dedicating your entire mindset in the space of time to the one task you have to do. When I was doing my creative task today of creating these 5 adverts that I just told you about, I noticed the way that my mind was acting towards these adverts and towards my ideas when I was creating them. And I thought it was interesting, and that's what promoted me to make this video, right? So, I mean, this video didn't come off of me like journaling about a specific idea, but it just came into my head, and I thought that it would be interesting to share. So what it was, I was creating these adverts, and I was wondering what's a good hook, what's a good thing that would keep this viewer watching, what would make them have the feeling in their chest that sort of pushes them to do the CTA, which is click the button, right? Call to action, if you don't know, if you're not a marketer, CTA, right? Okay. So I was thinking in my mind, what are the emotions they feel, and I kept testing different lines. So the copy is what we call it in marketing, you probably know that. I was testing the different copy in my mind and putting myself in the space of viewing the advert. I didn't even think that I was doing this, but I just, out of nowhere, I just kind of realized that this is what I was doing. And I was seeing the advert in my mind and seeing how I'd react to it. And that's what put me in the creative state of testing different things and finding out what would work. So when you're being creative, right, there's loads of different options you can go down. It's sort of an open book, it's a plain page. And you test sort of loads of different options, and that's what really makes it interesting. You could go down so many different paths, but being able to sort of tune in to your emotions especially, and be aware of them, is what will help you be successful creatively and put yourself in the shoes of the observer. So if it's painting, right, to be a successful painter, you have to be able to connect with the person who is viewing your painting, right? So you need to be able to observe your emotional reaction, test even, maybe you will test it on the canvas by making trial painting sketches before, but you might also, like I was doing, test it in my mind in a sort of simulation, and through using that simulation, you'll find out the emotional reaction. So creativity is ultimately about connecting emotionally. So you have to be able to do that. I mean, it's sort of, you have to view it, is it objectively or objectively, right? You have to be able to view it objectively so that you don't get carried away with it, but you need to be able to notice the different emotions that you feel towards things. And this is a key part of the creative process that people don't necessarily talk about explicitly. So if you, like me, are a marketer and you've maybe watched videos about how to do your marketing and stuff, this is a key that maybe they won't talk about explicitly, of how to do and create the adverts yourself, the part of the process of creating it. Because marketing, I mean, no one really says that it's a creative art or a creative form of work, but it is really, because you are creating forms of art in the content that you put out for people to consume and view. So when you are a marketer and you are making your piece of work, you need to use this process of thinking, how will people react, and creating simulations in your mind of how people will react to things. It's super important. No one talks about that, right? They will talk about, okay, people need to have the correct emotional reaction for the CTA, but they don't really tell you how to achieve that and what the sort of processes your mind should go through. So when you are creating something next time, have that in your mind, that you need to be able to test and simulate your different ideas and really use that as a super essential tool of creating good marketing. When I talk about a creative process, there is this idea in your mind probably of it being relaxing, right? So when someone paints or they draw, it's considered a relaxing thing, but it doesn't necessarily need to be relaxing. Like when I'm working and figuring out some adverts to do, or maybe it's a YouTube short, YouTube video, I'm not necessarily relaxed thinking about it. It can be kind of an intense creative process rather than one that's relaxing. So if you allow yourself to accept that sometimes it is a strenuous process and a stressful process, it will probably be a lot more easy for you to accept that. I mean, if you're a marketer, you will probably already know that because it's your job, so you didn't really think, oh, my job should be really relaxing and shit. But if you are maybe an artist and you think, oh, I should be really relaxed, have a cup of coffee, have the nice jazz music on before I do my painting and things, or before I do my drawings, and if I don't do that, then I can't make good work. Well, that's just not true. The thing is, even throughout, usually, right, you will start and it'll be kind of stressful, difficult at the start. Like I talked about the inertia earlier, you need to build up the inertia and have the sort of rhythm going for you to be able to get into that super good flow state and creative state. But even if throughout the process and along the journey, not just at the start, it is still kind of stressful, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just sort of how it is sometimes. I'm going to be completely honest, right? So when I was doing this, it was kind of difficult, like pretty strenuous and stressful in my mind. But that's the nature of deep focused work and creative work, is it will put a lot of strain on your mind and use a lot of energy because you are creating something new. You're not just repurposing ideas, or maybe you are in some degree, but you're putting your own spin on it, right? And that takes way more energy than maybe writing something down. So like when you're in school, you would copy your teacher's writing off from the board. And that doesn't take any energy. But when you're creating something, even if it is a relaxing thing to do, like painting, you're using a lot of energy of your brain, and that does take effort. So to think to yourself, every time I create something, I should be really relaxed is super limiting, because the reality of it is that it won't always be really relaxing. It will take quite a bit of effort, almost always, right? So a flow state does not mean a relaxed state. It means a state where you are super deep focused, and especially you are creative. Another thing I want to remind you of and sort of let you know about, you probably already know this, but you might forget. Every single creative process has its nuances and differences, right? I'm not just trying to be like wishy-washy and shit here, but if you're writing some copy, you're a marketer, you're doing SMMA, whatever you're writing some copy with words, you don't want to have music going in through your ears or from anywhere, right? You don't want to hear loads of sounds. If it's white noise in the background, maybe that's okay. But when you're writing copy, you're thinking of words, and that, even if that technically in your mind you're just thinking of them, you're not actually listening to them, you are actually listening to the words, right? So you're not, when you think of words to write for your copy, you're not seeing them in your mind. You might see them, but really you're hearing them through your ears. And I know that sounds dumb because there's not actually sound coming in from around you. When you write copy, you are hearing your words. So you don't want to have music on in the background when you're writing, because what's going through your ears will just distract it and bring you off on tangents, take you away from the focus. But if you're drawing something, it's very different, right? When you're drawing something, the music, it doesn't matter because it's completely visual art. Like, okay, I just want to, quickly going back to my point before, if you're creating music, you wouldn't listen to some R&B whilst you're creating a classical piece. It will distract you, right? That's what I'm trying to say with my point before. You don't want two different things going in through your ears. It's going to confuse you, right? So yeah, anyways, back to what I was just saying. If you're drawing something, painting something, it's completely different. You can have things going in through your ears whilst you're drawing with your eyes, okay? So you need to think sort of logically about your senses and how they interact and what will distract you. Ultimately, if you do have too many things going on, then it will distract you. But if it's two different things, it's all right, kind of, okay? So yeah, certain things it's different. You have to think about what will distract you in that moment. That's all I've got for this video, but if you enjoyed that, I hope you did. Give it a like, subscribe maybe, and yeah, I'll put more content out and you'll learn about more of the things I'm thinking about and what I'm learning.